Football is Kenya's favorite sport, a national pastime loved by millions. But in stadiums across the country, a dark cloud is looming over Kenyan football.
Nikikuambia mambo ya match fixing, hii ni kama drug dealing. Unajua wale watu wa chini ndio huguzwa, lakini ule drug dealer mwenyewe hajawahi fikiwa.
International match-fixing syndicates have infiltrated Kenyan football, exploiting players, referees, and officials in schemes that investigators say generate millions while leaving careers in ruins.
That mimi kama mkule have been approached.
Now, for the game to end 3-0 tomorrow, we have $14,000 for you.
Wewe utakata hiyo offer? Huwezi kataa.
This investigation by Africa Uncensored reveals how individuals entrusted with interpreting, enforcing, and safeguarding the laws of the game instead became its greatest threat. Their actions fueled match-fixing to unprecedented levels, drawing dozens of players, referees, and officials into a deeply entrenched network of corruption from which many now struggle to escape.
Okay, then deal is on. Okay. That first half draw, what we want must come. Okay?
Hiyo sasa ndo match fixing. Unaona hiyo federation imeenda, walikuwa wamejaa hivi.
Are you comfortable to name them?
Bana, piga hii shughuli kwa federation.
Kaulunga, bao mbili tatu mimi nafunga. Kaulunga, makeki kawa tatu nikipula. Kaulunga.
For decades, a perpetual hope for glory has driven Kenyan football through its highs and lows. The history of Kenyan football is defined by a series of big moments and even bigger failures. Kenyan football finds itself at a crossroads. While match-fixing has threatened the integrity of the competition on the pitch, persistent leadership battles, governance concerns, and allegations that have attracted international scrutiny have compounded the sport's troubles of it. As this investigation established, the rot goes deeper than you think. The last embers of hope in Kenyan football are on the verge of being snuffed out by a vicious network engaged in match manipulation, commonly known as match-fixing. Beyond the immediate damaging impact of match-fixing across the entire football ecosystem, including the national team, leagues, clubs, talent development pipelines, sponsorships, and broadcast deals, the careers of dozens of players and match officials now hang in the balance as they are trapped in blackmail schemes, with betting syndicates and their influential associates threatening to expose them and end their careers unless they continue to manipulate games and recruit more people. According to World Football governing body FIFA, matches are typically manipulated for two primary reasons, with the biggest being betting-related financial gain. Individuals conspire with betting syndicates to fix results in order to win illegal sports bets. Teams or players may also deliberately perform poorly or lose to gain a competitive edge in a later tournament stage, avoid a difficult opponent, or prevent relegation. Kevin Tea, a Nairobi-based sports journalist, has covered Kenyan football for over a decade, earning the respect of fans who see him as one of the game's credible voices. The rise of match manipulation in Kenyan football is among issues Tea has reported on extensively, including scandals at different clubs.
Definitely, these things are affecting the league. They are affecting even trying to get sponsors, because no one wants to come and put his money in a league with so many questions. New fans, if you can't attract new fans into the game when the goals you're letting in are cheap, because with all these man of allegations, it becomes really, really hard. It's actually affecting the quality of the game. You can't really attract sponsors with such. You can't attract new fans with such, and even the old fans, they'll get tired. Why am I going to the pitch every week to watch a game that looks predetermined in quotes? And yeah, it's affecting football in general. I think as early as probably 2016, 17, there were those rumors. But again, it's a phenomenon that I was not familiar with. You just hear people saying, this game has been sold, this game has been fixed, this one has been manipulated. But there's really no proof that that game has been manipulated, because it's not something you're used to. But I think when it hit home, or rather when I realized that probably this thing is actually happening, was I think in 2019, when FIFA banned the former Harambee Stars defender George Owino over a game involving the national team that had happened years back. That's when I realized, oh, okay. So this thing that people are really talking about in low tones could actually be happening.
In 2019, FIFA banned former Harambee Stars defender George Owino from all football-related activities for 10 years and fined him 1.5 million shillings after an investigation found he had worked with Singaporean convicted match fixer Wilson Raj Perumal to manipulate matches involving Kenya's national team. Among them was a World Cup qualifier between Kenya and Nigeria, which Kenya lost 3-2. Perumal claimed to have flown to Kenya and convinced 3 Harambee Stars players to manipulate the outcome of the match, which secured Nigeria's place at the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. 2 years after Owino was banned, in 2021, the FIFA Disciplinary Committee found Kericho-based club Zoo FC guilty of having been involved in match manipulation in violation of the FIFA Disciplinary Code. The decision followed a series of matches in the Kenyan Premier League, deemed to have been manipulated between 2018 and 2020 by individuals belonging to the club. Zoo FC was expelled by FIFA from the Kenyan Premier League and relegated to the 4th-tier FKF Division 1.
Coming from FIFA, you realize that, okay, this thing is probably actually here with us.
The sanctions did not end there. As investigations into match manipulation widened, further disciplinary action followed. In January 2023, the Football Kenya Federation provisionally suspended 16 players and coaches, including several linked to Zoo FC, as part of efforts to safeguard the integrity of Kenya's football leagues and stem the growing influence of match fixing within the sport.
There are suspended players, there are referees as well, others are club officials, others, unfortunately, some are allegedly a journalist as well. So it's a broad, it's a broad chain of people. I think the whole ecosystem has the representatives of match manipulators.
The FIFA sanction on Zoo Kericho in 2021 was emblematic of the decline of Kenyan football and its top-flight league, particularly under the stewardship of then Football Kenya President Nick Mwendwa.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the returning officer, I declare Nick Mwendwa as the winner of the election of President of FKF.
During his tenure, Kenyan football lost its broadcast partnership with SuperSport, while several sponsors also withdrew. The departures followed a series of public disputes between the broadcaster, league managers, and the federation, including disagreements over the number of teams participating in the league. The loss of SuperSport as a broadcast partner cost the Kenyan Premier League an estimated 300 million shillings in annual revenue, including multi-million shilling grants that clubs had come to rely on. A 5-year, 1.2 billion shilling title sponsorship agreement with betting firm BetKing was terminated after just a year, leaving clubs without critical funding. The exit of major betting companies led by SportPesa from sponsorship of local football clubs, including Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards, at the height of a government crackdown against firms in the gambling sector, further exposed the vulnerability of clubs across the Kenyan football ecosystem. According to players and match officials who spoke to Africa Uncensored, the decreased visibility of the league, along with the poor financial conditions for players and officials, contributed significantly to a surge in match fixing. Mwendwa's tenure reflected many of the governance challenges that had long plagued Kenyan football, continuing concerns that had dogged the game for years. His predecessor Sam Nyamweya, for instance, presided over a scandal-ridden tenure in which player welfare was often disregarded. Mwendwa was eventually replaced by Hussein Mohamed in 2024. He decried the downfall of Kenyan football and pledged to transform its fortunes. Among issues he promised to tackle decisively was match fixing.
We must bravely address the ills that have bedeviled our beloved sport. Ni wakati tupambane.
But despite the lofty promises, Mohamed's tenure has also seen numerous coaches and club officials come out to decry rampant match manipulation in Kenya's top-flight league. In the most recent SportPesa League season concluded in June 2026 under FKF's watch, several football stakeholders, including coaches Charles Okere and Abdallah Juma, called out the dangerous rise of match manipulation.
Yeko kwa wachezaji hata katika ofisi ya federation pia wanafanya hizo vitu, wana deploy wanakuwa deploy na so hii ni kitu Kenya hatuwezi kuacha. Is the thing that we cannot tell traffic not to collect money in the road. Tutamwambia traffic guys.
In their last game of the season, then Sofapaka coach Edward Manoa stormed onto the pitch as he accused his own players of match manipulation in the game against Kariobangi Sharks, owned by former FKF president Nick Mwendwa. For Kariobangi to have a chance of surviving relegation, Kariobangi Sharks needed to score at least 5 goals against Sofapaka. They scored 6. Patrick Korir is the chief executive of Nairobi City Stars, which featured in the Kenyan Premier League between 2016 and 2025 when it was relegated to the second tier. Korir's frustrations over match manipulation paint a picture of a dysfunctional system, one in which even owners, executives and coaches are powerless to stop the vice in their own organizations, and the bodies tasked with stopping the vice are either toothless or complicit.
Match manipulation is where you guarantee. You see, now in betting, it can go either way. City Stars can win, Team X can win, or they could draw, and no one wins it. But now match manipulation or match fixing is whereby you now guarantee the results. And it happens in so many ways.
After being confronted with rising incidents of match fixing in the league, Korir decided to take matters into his own hands in 2023 and set up a sting operation meant to catch the fixers red-handed, offering a rare, in-depth look at the match-fixing underworld in Kenya.
Festo Omukoto, who was a former City Stars player, scouted through Aspire, went to the Aspire Academy in Senegal, and then later came back, played for City Stars. I think was called up to the under-20. Very good midfielder. While he was at Homeboys, there was a time there was a allegation of fixing of games at Homeboys. Eventually, some players were suspended. He was one of them for 4 good years. So he served his suspension is over. So Kefu gave him a role as an ambassador. So he calls me one evening and tells me, "Hey, CEO, so ndio ile story ya mine nikikuwa suspended." Nikamwambia, "Hiyo story naikumbuka." So akaniambia, "The guys who are behind what happened have reached out." So I'm like, okay. So they're in the country. Wako Kenya. We're talking about somewhere Feb, March 2023. So I'm like, okay, so unatakaje? Kaniambia, Korir, vile nakujua kama journalist na umekuwa on record upendangi history ya match fixing. Tuduaje? Si tupige mpango tushike hawa wasi. Hey, I'm telling Festo, kesho tuko na game ya sofa. So he tells me, he calls me, he tells me, okay, so these guys have said I organize. So he talks to me, now Festo talks to me for City Stars to organize for 7 players. And I'm calling the cops. So the plan was we present ourselves wherever they want us, but then in the background, we get one of the people mic'd so that every conversation can be heard outside somewhere, and then we get the cops. So kidogo, these guys say, no, the players must be 7. They say those 7 players must be in the starting 11. And they make it very clear. goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 2 midfielders, and a striker. And they came to 7. But anyway, since you decide to do it, call. So we agree on who to call.
Yeah.
We're like, Pigia, so-and-so. So they came. So in fact, we even made it 8 because we got a midfielder who is also a defender. So we had 8 players.
After gathering the players, Korir alerted authorities and Citizen TV sports reporter Mike Okinyi, setting up the match fixers.
We are on Thika Road, headed towards Kasarani, but we'll be given the location of the exact place where the meeting is going to be. We don't know where it is, but we understand that the fixers are ready, the money is there, all they need is the players and agreement on how to fix the game.
Eventually they get to some building. Someone in Roysambu. So they go up, I think, to the 4th floor. So I'm in the office, I'm just monitoring on call what's going on. So they get into a room, so the conversations begin. Now they said, tomorrow you're playing Sofapaka. So plan ya kesho is that you lose this game by 3-0. 3-0. So you concede in the first 10 minutes. First 10 minutes, make sure you've conceded. And then in the last 20 minutes, you concede the other 2.
For that, for the last 15 minutes, you're working for 10,000. Then plus 1,000?
Yes.
That's 11,000 in total.
$11,000. If you will do confirmation and mistake work, we not pay.
At the right moment, police pounced with TV cameras in tow.
Once the police had had enough, they swung into action, bursting into the house. 1 Russian, 1 Ugandan, and 1 Kenyan from the match-fixing gang were arrested.
Sit down, my friend. Sit down. Where? Sit down, you. Sit down. Let's go.
But despite Korir having gone above and beyond to nab the fixers, justice would prove elusive. The 3 suspects arrested would be released just weeks later after being charged with conspiracy to commit a felony and cheating, in violation of the penal code, due to the lack of an explicit law criminalizing match fixing, a massive legal loophole. Just 3 months later, Korir would suspend 2 Nairobi City Stars players over their alleged involvement in match fixing: veteran striker Ezekiel Odera and a defender, Salim Abdallah.
So that took a really big hit on us because Federation did not act, which I found very disappointing, because for the 3 months we had suspended them, Federation literally did nothing about it. So when I checked on how far the case was going, is when they asked me to submit evidence. And I'm like, my first report came with evidence. So they're like, yes, what else have you found? I'm like, I clearly mentioned that I will not investigate because I don't have the capacity. But since you have an integrity office, it was your role to investigate. So what happens?
A year later, 5 match officials would be suspended by FKF over alleged match manipulation after a match between Nairobi City Stars and FC Talanta in Machakos, after Korir filed a report on suspicious behavior by referees. Edwin Mukolwe was the player in goal for Nairobi City Stars versus FC Talanta and was named the player of the match for his heroics as he saved 2 controversial penalties.
Kuna game tulicheza na Talanta pale Machakos. In one of my best years nikiwa City Stars, I got the highest number of clean sheets I've ever gotten in my career. So ilikuwa game ya Talanta tunacheza. Game yenyewe haiko kwa TV. Game yenyewe haina fans. Tumepelekwa wapi? Machakos. Nakwambia kwa hiyo game nilisave pena ngapi? Na ni pena yenyewe hakuna pena hapa. Unaona ile ni 50-50. Hakuna pena hapa. Lakini refa sha call. Hakuna pena hapa, refa sha call. Akaona huku ni kunoma. Akapeleka pena huko side nyingine. After hiyo match week, like 2 weeks after, kuna watu walikuwa suspended. Kulikuwa na allegations za match fixing kwa hiyo game.
The goals that we scored, I'd say were too easy. The penalties that we got to score the third goal was too easy. The penalties awarded against us were no penalties. So I called 2 guys at the federation, told them that. I sent a WhatsApp on the same. The next day I sent an email just to say, kindly investigate that game, because I didn't feel it was normal. As much as I'm happy we've won, but you're feeling like it's a kind of game where you'll also be told you're part of the deal. So, and I didn't want that. So I wanted to separate City Stars from whatever was going on. And sure enough, one of the referees came out and said, hii game ilikuwa fixed.
I actually think the referees are the biggest players in this vice, because they have the powers to determine how a match goes. You may talk to defenders that you want them to let goals, but the other team decides not to attack. So the referees have the biggest power. They can give out penalties, they can give out red cards, they can ignore penalty calls, they can ignore important cards. For example, a dangerous tackle goes unpunished. So they are the biggest players because they are the person who can easily determine how a game goes, whether a team wins, loses, or draws.
FKF has suspended several referees in recent years over alleged match manipulation, but investigations have not progressed further. The careers of many referees suspended over match fixing currently hang in limbo. For this investigation, Africa Uncensored tracked down for several months a Kenyan Premier League referee who was suspended by FKF over alleged match manipulation, ultimately convincing him to speak on the operations of match-fixing syndicates in the country. Our investigation uncovered allegations that match-fixing networks have infiltrated parts of Kenyan football. The referee, who asked not to be identified for his safety, says referees were approached by people with advanced knowledge of their match appointments, sometimes before those appointments were officially communicated. He also alleges that, in some cases, the approaches came from within the football administration itself.
Nikikwambia mambo ya match fixing, hii ni kama drug dealing. Unajua wale watu wa chini ndio huguzwa, lakini ule drug dealer mwenyewe hajawahi fikiwa. Yeye ndio ana manage pale juu, anajua huyu na huyu, lakini wakishikwa anaenda missing. Hautawahi sikia ati kuna mdosi fulani alishikwa juu ya drug dealing. Hiyo sasa ndo match fixing. Unaona hiyo federation imeenda, walikuwa wamejaa hivi.
Federation yani?
Yannick, hapo ndani walikuwa wamejaa hivi. Kuna referees hapo ndani, hao administrators hapo ndani, hao wote. Utasuspendiwa ati so and so amekuwa suspended. Hata hautawahi jua ni duration gani. Wangapi wamesuspendiwa tangu Nick aingie federation? Wengi. Umewaisikia matokeo ati investigation imefanywa ikaisha. Juu ule akitoa hiyo evidence yake, atashikwa. Ukimchukua umuulize nani alikuleta hapa, juu ya uoga atasema jamaa fulani. Jamaa fulani akupeleke kwa jamaa fulani. Huyo akupeleke kwa mdosi mwenyewe. So ndio maana hapo ndani ni noma.
According to John, whose name has been changed to protect his identity, senior figures in Kenyan football administration work closely with the match fixers.
Hao watu wa federation si ati hawajui. Mtu fulani akona appointment. Huyo Masia anajuaje we ndio uko na appointment ya game fulani na we ni referee? Amepataje contact zako na akakupigia simu? Amefikiwa aje na ye hayuko hapa? Simu inaonyesha ako nje ya country. Alijuaje we ndio uko na hiyo appointment? Unapata mtu anakupigia simu before hata we mwenyewe upate appointment. Before ujue utaenda game fulani. Venye iko, we utaapproachiwa. Wakuambie hii game nataka bao 5. Hii game tunataka bao 2. Hii game hatutaki bao. Na hii offer ni pesa fulani. Watakuambia game yote tumekupea kama ni 1 million ama 500k ama 100k. Hii game tutakupa 300,000 ama 200,000. We unaweza fix match juu ya 20k.
He argued that many referees take the offers due to their dire financial situation, which is exacerbated by months-long delays in payments from the federation and little consideration paid to referee welfare.
Mtu akikukol atakuambia kuna game fulani, nataka ufanye hivi na hivi, na wewe ukatae ama ukubali. But kulingana na venye kuko, itabaki umekubali. Wewe umechorwa job, umefanya job 3 months, hujalipwa. Familia kuna wenye wanakutegemea, unasomesha. Ikifika end month, hauna do. Boss, unabishiwa nyumba, 3 months hujalipa akeja, alafu mtu anakuletea offer. Wewe utakataa hiyo offer? Huwezi kataa, utasema kama mbaya.
With players and referees now roped in by the match-fixing cartels, a new danger looms over their careers. Threats, intimidation, coercion, and blackmail are all part of the package. John said referees can face retribution for refusing to play ball.
Niliapproachiwa, na mwenye alini-approach ni mtu wa federation. Nikatravel hadi mahali tulikuwa tunacheza game. Akanipata. Usiku naingia hivi, napatana na gari yake, ameningoja. Nafika hivi, gari iko kando yangu. Panda tuende. Kufika huko, napata niko na players wote hapo. Wote wa team A. Akaniambia hii game, first half, inafaa hii team ishinde. Away team. Second half, inafaa home team ishinde. Nilijaribu kukataa hiyo game, walikataa kunisikiza. Then ikafika match day. Nikapiga game. First half away team ikashinda, na tena walikuwa juu venye hawajai kuwa game zao zote. Walikuwa juu sana. Wakashinda first half vizuri. Second half kurudi, wakaongeza bao. Then after hiyo bao, wakarudi chini. Blanda defenders walianza kufanya, inakuonyesha tu nini inaendelea hapo. Away team ikapata bao 2-1. Blanda tu ya kipa. Kocha kakasirika. Kumbe hayuko kwa hii shughuli. Ni technical bench yake iko na yeye hajui. Ana demand kipa apigwe sub. Team manager wake anakataa. Then wakapata bao ingine kwa 2-2. Game inaenda kuisha. Then game ikienda kuisha, wakapata bao ya 3 ya 3-2 ya home team kuwin. Nilikataa bao. Ilikuwa on goal. Mimi nilikataa. Utafanya? Uliniletea deal nikakataa. Hiyo deal wewe ukaunda na players. After kukataa bao, ilikuwa noma. Kuna mabao hakuna mtu anateta, ni kocha ako huko peke yake. Wale players wa ndani hakuna mtu anateta. So hapo ndio nakwambia, venye nilikataa bao ilinipea noma mingi sana. Na nilitafutiwa makosa mpaka ikapatikana. So after hiyo shughuli, venye nilikataa hiyo bao, na hiyo bao ilikuwa bao ya pesa. Juu hiyo ya 3-2 ndio pesa yake ingeingia. Ilibidi huyo msee anitafute hadi mtaa. Uzuri hakuwa anajua mahali naishi. But sasa asubuhi nikienda zoezi, alikuwa anajua time yangu ya zoezi. Nilipatana na gari yake, nikaiona kwa umbali. Nikajua hii ni gari ya jamaa fulani. Hiyo siku train. Nilirudi home.
They're trapped because I can assure you the messages we've seen out, the videos you see out of players that have been leaked, they have been leaked by the people they were working for. Because you decide that now, let's say a player has gotten a call-up or the career is in an upward trajectory and they realize that no, this match-fixing thing is something that I really now need to drop and focus on my career. I probably could actually go even and play in Europe or somewhere. But now, you've done a good job for the fixers before and they're really not going to let you go. What do? Leak those messages, leak those videos, leak those photos. And yeah, you're trapped. So basically, once you get into much manipulation, unfortunately, from the information I've gathered, there's really largely no way out.
Bro, what we want must come. Okay?
The case of former Harambee Stars goalkeeper Patrick Matasi, in which a leaked video appeared to show him discussing match-fixing plans, shook Kenyan football to its core.
Yeah, because it was actually an old video. It was an old video. The video recorded or the video leaked was when he was playing for Kenya Police FC. And when it was leaked, he was at Kakamega Homeboys. So the video was leaked way many months later after it was recorded. So there can only be one reason why such a video will be let out, and your guess is as good as mine.
So I feel like they have avenues za hide their tracks na kuficha hizo interaction. Ndio kwa maana unapata hata kesi kama ya yule goalkeeper ambaye kulikuwa na video ilikuwa from an angle, ilikuwa kujificha. Mimi ukiniuliza hata huyo jamaa ambaye ako kwa hiyo mwenye ana record ni mtu mwenye unaona venye tunaongea hivi. Hakuna mtu hawezi kuwa anani record na nafanya kitu mbaya na nisimkataze. Unanipata? So mimi my idea about hiyo case, which is totally my opinion, is that mtu ambaye aliseti huyo goalkeeper, labda huyo goalkeeper alikuwa anataka kujitoa kwa inoma akisema mistaki, but unajua venye mikora saa zingine huwa anakuchukulia ka evidence.
When asked to name figures at the federation whom he claims were involved in match fixing, John, the suspended referee, offered an interesting connection that would put Matasi in the same place with alleged fixers before it all came tumbling down. The national team Harambee Stars.
Are you comfortable to name them?
Bana, Roni anapiga hiyo shughuli na Roni ako federation.
John had good reason to be afraid of Ronnie Oyando. He was not your ordinary football administrator. Despite previously holding several senior roles over the years, including as team manager of Harambee Stars under Nick Mwendwa and fixtures secretary at the federation in the Sam Nyamweya era, Oyando was a feared figure in Kenyan football. According to John, Oyando approached match officials on various occasions to manipulate various games, many of them involving Sofapaka. Notably, Oyando was also suspended by the Confederation of African Football for 6 months in January 2021. The sanction was for breaching COVID-19 protocols during an AFCON qualifier against Comoros, which included delaying testing and fielding Harambee Stars players who tested positive. Milton Nyakundi, a sports journalist who later sought the office of FKF president, came face-to-face with Oyando while trying to expose alleged corruption and mismanagement of funds at FKF under Nick Mwendwa. It all came to a head at a press conference he called at the Ngong Hills Hotel on October 17, 2021.
It goes without saying that the Nick Mwendwa administration thrived on threats, intimidation, and violence. Anybody that held an opinion different from theirs was targeted for intimidation, and I am not the only one that got, that. So in the course of our processing what had happened, reaching out to the police, and, some of the, then they are the ones who, told us and gave us that information that they had been instructed by the then president of FKF, Nick Mwendwa, and the person who gave them the brief and the instructions was one Ronnie Oyando. That information, we made it public. We shared it. The media reported about it. We did report at the Kilimani police station. And to date, nobody has ever challenged that position. I've never been sued for stating that. And I therefore believe that that is the correct position.
I can say it's actually getting worse because for once, we don't have any measures to curb it. Those involved, the suspected fixers, are just with us here. They are known people. They come to the stadium to watch games. There is really nothing to fear for them to fear. So the lack of mitigating factors or the lack of consequences for those involved in the vice has made it even more prevalent. It's probably they are braver. After all, what can we do? Let's say I'm already suspended or I'm already banned. If I continue with this thing, there's nothing worse will happen to me. There's no law in Kenya that probably will be taken against me. So I think it's getting worse, and the manipulators are getting broader by the day. And I don't know, it's a bad sign for the game going forward.
Mukolwe, who retired in January 2026 at just 28, says many players in the top flight league and second tier fall into the fixers trap because of financial challenges. Kenyan football players routinely go months without pay, with delayed or unpaid salaries being a persistent crisis across several top flight clubs, sometimes forcing players to seek aid from well-wishers after being evicted from their homes. The situation is compounded by low wages. Over 90% of players in Kenya earn less than $600 a month, according to Players Union FIFPro, pushing many to seek income outside of football just to survive.
It's worth noting that my body is at its best condition, Sahi, as an athlete. I am the strongest I have ever felt as an athlete, but I'm 28. I was 28 when I was retiring. I just turned 29 a week or two ago. So decision yangu ya kuacha ball ni kwa sababu hakuna do kwa ball. Kuna timu hata nilikuwa date 11, hakuna mtu alikuwa na do. Date 11. Na hii ni across the team. Kuna team zenye nimekuwa hadi coach anaomba mchezaji do. So unaona inoma ni si ya wachezaji peke yake, but I can say it without blinking. I can say it without flinching that players are not being paid their work's worth in the Kenyan Premier League.
Mukolwe revealed that he too had been approached multiple times to manipulate matches while he was still an active player in the league.
That mimi kama Mukolwe I have been approached na watu wakiniambia ni manipulate games. For example, kwa mtu anakupigia kwenye WhatsApp, mtu anakutext kwenye Instagram, anakuuliza wenda unacheza hii weekend, unasema naweza cheza, rada shida iko wapi? Anakuambia nataka ufanye hivi na hivi, nataka umanipulate outcomes ya hii game. So it's up to you as the individual kusema kama utakubali ama utakataa. So I can't speak for players who said no. Kuna mtu labda ataapproachiwa na aseme by the job ana miss na rent. Kama unaweza nisotia tu rent, nitakuwa sawa.
In the past year, there have been new efforts to rein in match fixing in Kenya, namely a proposed anti-match fixing bill tabled in Parliament by nominated MP Irene Mayaka, which would criminalize match fixing, and the formation of a new sports integrity task force set up by the Sports Ministry. Whether these efforts will be successful is up for debate, with players and officials arguing that any real solution must first address long-standing issues on pay and welfare.
So we need to change nini tunazungumza about match fixing. Kama hatutaki kutafuta solution, tunaharibia tu watu life. Juu kuna goalkeeper saizi hawezi cheza kwa sababu wali allege ali match fix. Unaona? Wali allege ali match fix. So ile pesa anawadai ya 6 months, haizi enda mahali kudai juu alimsuspend. Na ni suspension ambaye mchezaji hajakuwa hard.
With Kenya preparing to co-host the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations, restoring integrity in football is no longer optional. It is essential. The country faces a critical test, proving that it can not only host Africa's biggest football tournament, but also protect the integrity of the game. For the thousands of footballing talents across the country, millions of fans and stakeholders of the game, eradicating match fixing is a matter of life and death for Kenyan football. Match fixing hollows out the very soul of the sport. When results are predetermined, every goal, every save, every last-minute drama becomes a lie sold to fans who gave their time, money, and genuine emotion to something rigged from the start. For betting enthusiasts, in a country with one of Africa's highest populations of youth engaged in sports betting, the threat is even more immediate. When syndicates manipulate outcomes, the odds are designed to deceive you, meaning your money isn't lost to chance, but stolen through fraud. You're not gambling, you're being robbed.
But now, one of the days now we're sitting with Interpol, now we are sitting and the OCS is now asking us, okay, sawa, sasa hawa tunawapeleka kotini, tunawashtaki. Lakini sasa tunawashtaki na nini? That's when for the first time I saw the penal code. It's a massive book. So we are trying to go through. Sasa hii match fixing tutapata wapi? There is no law that we could use. So I think they were being taken to court with attempt to steal or conspiracy. There was something, there are two cases on them. Conspiracy to defraud and I think attempt to steal. Because there's nothing about match fixing. So I call him, so again he's like, huyo ni Koril. City Stars. Pole nilisahau kukuambia. Ile kesi yako file ilifungwa. I'm like, what do you mean file ilifungwa? He's like, yeah, because these guys came back through their lawyers changed the plea to guilty, and they paid the fine that went with that case. They were released and the file is closed. So funny enough, I meet the OCS of Kasarani Stadium Police Station. So like, hey, na wale watu tulishika wako wapi? Bado wako kotini? Nikamwambia ile kesi ilifungwa. Siele, funny enough, just as he was asking me that, the Kenyan guy sells TheraBands. Alipita tu hapo. Akasimama kuzia mtu TheraBands. Nikamwambia si hata huyu ni mmoja wao. Right there in front of our eyes. Like, you're just looking scot-free. So, you can do anything and everything. But first, if the federation is not serious about, if they don't have a serious integrity office, which unfortunately is a case. And that time when that case was dropped, I was very disappointed. I made a plea to the government, please, can you enact a law? Because I can't be subjecting my players to some cold night to arrest people, and then they walk scot-free.
Responding to questions from Africa Uncensored, FKF President Hussein Mohammed denied the claim that the federation had failed to address match fixing as he promised in his campaign for office. The presence of allegations does not necessarily mean there has been a failure to act. Match manipulation is a sophisticated crime that requires evidence-based investigations, intelligence gathering, and due process. The federation cannot sanction individuals based on speculation, rumors, or public allegations alone. Since taking office, we have strengthened collaboration with FIFA, CAF, and integrity partners, enhanced awareness programs for players, referees, and clubs, and continued reviewing our reporting and investigative processes. This is not a challenge that can be solved overnight, but our commitment to protecting the integrity of Kenyan football remains unwavering, Mohammed said. Nick Mwendwa, in a message on WhatsApp, said he did not wish to comment on matters football as he left office 2 years ago. Patrick Matasi denied allegations of involvement in match fixing after the video surfaced, and has challenged his suspension by the Football Kenya Federation in court. Ronnie Oyando was yet to respond to requests for comment by the time of publication.
Cannot be reached.
Kaulunga, bao mbili tatu mimi nafunga. Kaulunga, makeki kawa tatu niki pull up.